Artificial intelligence is rapidly becoming part of everyday life for many of us, but there are legal tools designed to protect you to try to keep up with technology. That's the question. 11 Alive investigative reporter Zach Merchant has the answer for the story you'll only see on 11 Alive.
Is there a world where AI is able to process things faster than the human brain at some point in the future?
It's a great question, and in specific domains, we're already there.
New generative AI programs like ChatGPT are pushing the boundaries of what was once thought possible. They use algorithms trained on enormous troves of data to answer prompts from users, doing everything from creating images to summarizing documents. Georgia Tech computer scientist Santosh Vempala says the answers are often accurate, but not always.
Sometimes ChatGPT very confidently outputs completely incorrect information.
Absolutely, absolutely.
The industry calls those errors hallucinations. So what do you do when AI hallucinates about you? It's a question attorney John Monroe and his client Mark Walters are trying to answer. They allege the AI platform ChatGPT provided untrue information about Walters to a third-party user who asked the software to summarize a lawsuit.
It says Alan Gottlieb is suing Mark Walters because Mark used to be the CFO and treasurer of the Second Amendment Foundation, and he embezzled a bunch of money from the foundation.
Is that true?
None of that's true. Mark's never been the treasurer, never been the CFO, hadn't embezzled any money, none of that.
That initial suit was filed across the country in Washington state and never referenced Walters, according to court filings. But when asked to summarize it, Walters alleges, ChatGPT hallucinated, erroneously asserting he was involved in the case.
Other people would call it bald-faced lies.
Walters has now filed a defamation suit against OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT. In its own court filing, OpenAI raised more than a dozen arguments claiming that it never defamed Walters and that the suit should be dismissed with prejudice. The case is currently working its way through the Gwinnett County Superior Court system and has not yet reached a verdict. But Monroe says the suit exposes a gap between this developing technology and the law designed to help you guard your reputation.
I can't find a statute that says anything about generative AI in the statute book.
UGA law professor Claire Norins says there isn't much direct court precedent either, with the Walters case possibly being the first of its kind in the nation to tackle the question, what do you do if AI says something untrue and offensive about you?
That's an excellent question, and I think these cases are important to test the protections that exist under the law. Does it extend to this computer-generated speech?
Millions of people using this.
Professor Vempala says safeguards in the generative AI industry are still in their infancy, too.
The technology is still reaching the point of being usable for many applications, but the guardrails are not there yet.
And while safeguards, for now, lag, the powerful technology continues to grow.
I can't imagine it won't be everywhere.
Everywhere.
I mean, literally everywhere.
Now, both Professor Vempala and Professor Norins noted that generative AI companies, including ChatGPT maker OpenAI, are taking steps towards being more transparent about the limitations of their programs. They're generically, or I should say, generally optimistic about the future. So this is by no means all gloom and doom here, but it is a big reminder that, especially right now, being a careful, skeptical user of this new technology, probably a wise path, Ron.
So I am really fascinated with artificial intelligence. So is OpenAI saying anything about this?
You're right. This is sort of the new frontier of technology. And no, at least not to us. OpenAI, we reached out to them repeatedly over the course of nearly a month for comment on this story, never got a reply. But we should note that in court filings, the company's lawyers argue that the third-party user who sparked this case, who's at the center of everything, they say he deliberately misused the software, ignored repeated warnings, and violated the software's terms of use. Of course, it will be up to the court to sort out what really happened.
And now Apple has now struck a deal with OpenAI, so we can see this conversation is going to continue. Thanks a lot, Zach. We really appreciate that.